My name is Michael Pepe. I'm a record producer and songwriter here in Los Angeles, California. We're in my studio in Lake Balboa, California today. And I want to go over 5 tips in your production based on the song Get the Message by The Paradox that I produced and co-wrote. It went alternative number 1 for 2 weeks. It's sat in the top 5 alternative on Billboard as well for 8 or 9 weeks now. It's been top 10 for 12 weeks and top 40 for 6 going on 7 months. So I have the session open here, and I just want to go over 5 production tips for your song that maybe you can take from this song that I did that went Billboard number 1. So digging into the Mocha track here, we're going to go over 5 different things. I want to start with the first one being low end, right? We all know how important low end truly is to modern music and modern production, and this song is no different. And you know, I have a really unique low end here in this song, and this is a alternative rock song. We can listen to some of it in a moment, and then I can explain to you where the low end comes from and how I got to these decisions and how you can apply them to your work as well. So first of all, let's hear just the beginning of the song. That's the front pan. That's the beginning, and a little bit of the first verse is the chorus.
No matter what I do, I'll never be like you. Happy or insecure, which one would you prefer? No matter what you say, I'm gonna live my way. No room for second guessing. I hope you get the message.
Re-intro. I just wanted to give you a sample of the song so you could hear it. It's alternative rock, pop, punky. It's got a lot of different elements in it. Here we can see that the bass guitar in the verses and intro and re-intro is very distorted. So I'm going to solo it out. Really distorted. This is just a DI, by the way. So you can see here if I deactivate all the plugins here. It's just a DI guitar. This is an Ernie Ball Stingray into my Undertone Audio GB tracker, right into Pro Tools. Then we're using one of my favorite bass plugins, if not my favorite bass plugin, called the SVT Suite. It's made by Ampeg. They do an excellent job. I have a real Ampeg back there. This is just the plugin on the record. And the setting is Notch Your Friend, which is funny. And I tweaked, you can see it's italicized because I tweaked it a bit. I punched the mid-range, I think, down because I think it's usually dimed. So I punched it down a little bit, put the bass up some, put the treble up a little bit, turn the volume up. I turned the ultra high on, turned the ultra low on, and kept the mid-range in the middle switch at 800. And that's where most of the tone of the bass is coming from, so you can hear it again. That's pretty much the bass sound. I also added the decapitator on here as well, which is just set to beefy, one of my favorite decapitator settings. Just literally just go to the bass, go to beefy, and that's what the setting is. You can hear it adds a little bit, bypass it. You can hear it come alive a little bit, which is quite nice. Some EQ, which is goosing up the low end of 62 hertz and the mid-range at 1.5, and then a little bit of a cut at 250. Again, that's this for this though. That's going to change, and then some compression here. But my point in going through this is the verses are super distorted bass, which serves the song really well, especially where we have the stop-go rhythm in the verses with the drums. You can hear it very close to me. Got a great groove there in the verses for sure. But then in the choruses, we actually go to this clean bass. It's almost just the DI, honestly. Pretty much. I mean, we do have a tone in here. We have the SVT suite again, just sits at the edgy, but really not a lot. It's mainly just a DI. Watch, if I bypass this. I mean, it's adding a little bit of tone to it, don't get me wrong, but it's not a lot. It's a very clean tone. Mainly because the guitars, which we're going to get into in a moment as being another production tip, are so big, wide, and just dirty and overdrivey and fun that I really wanted to make some room up the middle for the bass to stand out by being clean. Having said that, the bass sitting in the middle is clean. Now, I also have 3 sub basses here as well that are supporting the main 4-string bass, right? 3 sub basses, and I'll bring up each setting to show you what each one is. The first sub bass I'm gonna play for you. I'm gonna play the first one, the second one, the third one. And when they're soloed, they sound a little like you're not gonna really believe per se that they're in the song, because they don't sound of the song. The song is, you just heard it, it's alternative, it's rock, it's pop, it's punk. And these sounds really don't have anything, are kind of divorced from those genres, but that's not the point. They support the main bass part so well, and I've curated and gone through and found settings that do that, regardless of how they sound solo. Because again, as we all know, we're going to solo stuff here in the video, but out in the world, you know, it was number one. Nobody soloed anything. They're just listening to it on the radio, you know, and it sounds great and exciting and fun. So this is the first bass sound. It's like a saw synth, very stereo. We're going to hear that in a minute. Super saw synth bass. The second one, which is my favorite one, is like this 8th note plucky one. Again, very stereo. Really cool. And the last one is the super subby, like 30 to 60 hertz, like just all the really modern low end. You might need to put on headphones for this because it's very subby to be able to hear this. And together they all sound like this. These are all the sub basses playing together. Really cool. Now let's hear it with the bass up the middle. The MIDI's following the bass line, so the sub bass and the main bass are playing the same thing at the same time with different sounds. So the first bass sound is this super saw synthy stereo bass, right? It's all the way left and right, right? So there's not a whole lot of center in that song. I mean, in that setting, the bass is sitting up the middle. I don't need more bass information up the middle. All of these bass synths are sitting super stereo, so when the song explodes in the chorus, everything gets really big. The guitars get big, the vocals get big, the drums get big, the cymbals are going, you know, so we're not closed hi-hat like in the verse. All of a sudden we're bashing on cymbals, open hats, blase, blase. But what also gets big is the low end. The low end gets really stereo, right? Because of these synths. The bass doesn't. The bass doesn't get stereo. The bass is sitting up the middle like it always has. So we don't lose grounding and cementing of the low end there. We only add to the low end in the chorus by this explosion of really controlled low end that happens on the sides of the production, right? With these basses. This one, again, super saw, super stereo, distorted, really fun sounding. The bass is clean, so we're already adding some nice, like, just overdriving distortion in the bass, kind of like the bass sounds in the verse, but on this saw synth in the chorus. This guy, the plucky bass, maybe my favorite one, because it's doing all 8th notes, but it's happening only in the stereo spectrum. So it's almost like when the bass is playing and that's going on. It's magical. It's like the low end production all of a sudden almost feels like the bass is picking in the center, but also hard left and right, because that bass is doing the low end plucks. So you're only getting the straight 8th notes out of that, and it works so beautifully where it makes the low end feel like it's literally being played on the lefts and rights, in addition to it being in the center with the actual bass. And then the sub bass is, again, it's probably going to be hard to discern if you're listening to this on a phone or a laptop or something, but if you're in the headphones, This is very subby, very low end. I mean, it's an octave underneath like where the bass actually sits in the 30 to 60 hertz range. Bass that low isn't super directionals, but if you're in headphones, you can hear it's happening on the sides. There's not a whole lot of it in the center. It's a stereo bass, right? And all of a sudden, that low end, those three elements in the production of the low end punch out, and the chorus gets really big. It's one of the reasons why the chorus is so big in the song is because of where the low end sits. You can see here, I'll open up these settings real fast for us, just so we can take a look at which settings they are, because these are not crazy settings. As a matter of fact, the first two, the saw synth and the plucky iridium synth, are serum settings, and this last super low endy sub is from Sublab. First setting here, this synth is called Brassy Saws, and it is literally just from a pack I downloaded from Reddit, from where is it? Echo Soundworks, Blackout Future Bass, Brassy Saws, and I just threw it in there. Again, this is from me listening to the bass and flipping through settings until I find ones that I like that support the bass sound I have going. I'm not, so, in this particular instance, these basses synths did great. The second one, the Iridium bass, maybe my favorite one in this production, is called Throaty Gate. It's in the same pack. I downloaded it from Reddit. Echo Soundworks, Blackout Future Bass, Throaty Gate, which is just a few underneath Brassy Saws. What I probably did, if I'm being honest, is I probably just copied the serum down to another MIDI track of the same thing and kept clicking the next button until I got to Throaty Gate, and that one sounded good combined with everything else. And then this one, the super low endy one, is called X Sub Full Harmonics inside of Sublab XL. Sublab XL is probably my favorite sub plugin. It just does such a great job at just super clean, really great sine wavy stuff. This one's just inside of a pack called Pure Subs, which is right. I pass it right here. X Sub Full Harmonics. I even have a favorite on it because I love it so much. I do use this setting quite a bit because it's such a clean, really nice attack release sub that sits underneath the bass, the natural bass guitars. So, production tip 1, how to make your low end bigger? Well, I just showed you. And trust me, it does work. You don't have to use those exact settings. As a matter of fact, I would recommend listening to your bass line and doing the MIDI and picking out bass presets or sounds that work with whatever bass you have going, but that is how I get that explosion of sound in the chorus. It's not just with the guitars, it is also with the bass getting super wide, super stereo, and making everything sound larger than life. So, production tip 2 is going to come from the guitars themselves. I was just talking about the bass being super wide and stereo. Well, guess what? The guitars also, same thing. Guitar production is so important in this genre of the alternative rock, even pop, and definitely punk, etc. Genre atmosphere. So, on this particular song, I have 3 tracks of rhythms: left, right, center. Left and right guitars are more overdrivey, while the center guitar is like distorted, ratty, it's like really high gain, right? All of these tones in this song are STL tones, my favorite amp plugin, and I have a pack through them, the Mike Pepe producer pack, and it's all using my Soldano SLO 100 tones. The left and right guitars are setting 9 low crunch, as you can see here. The center guitar is setting 11 high gain. We're going to solo these out and listen to them. This is left and rights. So you can really hear the poignancy of the guitars too. Yes, it's overdrivey, sort of distorted, but you can hear the chords, you can really hear the chords in there. You still get the function of the guitars, and then the center guitar, the really distorted one. That one is a little blurrier in the sense of the clarity of it, not in the sense of the sound, but the clarity. And again, it's supposed to be sitting up the middle, really supporting the center of the song with the natural bass guitar. So the natural bass is sitting up the center like this. and then the center guitar is this. So you're getting both octaves. You're getting the bass octave and you're getting the electric guitar octave playing up the middle together to make the, well, really to get both things. To get the bass to sound bigger up the middle, but also to get the center guitar to sound bigger as well up the center. So they both have their function. And then left and right's here. It's a beautiful thing. It explodes again. The left and rights and the center, the center only comes in during the big section of songs. During the big section of the song. So the intro, the chorus, and the bridge. The bridge is kind of a repurposing of the intro. We have the gang vocal in the intro over the big windmill guitars in the bridge. So it's a repurposing. It's an arrangement thing I did with the vocals and the composition. So it's familiar but new. You can actually hear. I'll just play it. That's the bridge. In the intro, we don't get the whoa-ohs until after the big one hits. So this is the big one hits, and we go into the intro. Then we get the whoa, and that's where the where the whoa-ohs start. But the center guitar, the big ratty distorted one, is only in the big parts of the song. Which, given in this song, is a lot of it. So it's pretty much just not in the verses. And then the stereo left and right guitars are in the whole song. These are all being sent to a bus that is using one of my favorite guitar plugins, Cornef Audio's AIP, Amplified Instrument Processor. I have a setting on here called EG Preset 1 under my Pepe that I made. And, well, here, it's really just you have to hear it to believe it, because it's not doing a whole lot of compression, though the compressor is enabled, because if you flip it around here, these VCA things that they built in the back of them are just really awesome. I'm not using the EQ. The EQ is actually not in. But the tone shaping and the transient response are doing a lot of work. And then the insufferable mid-range filter, IMF, is doing a ton of work as well. And it's really just making these guitars, again, these are all DI guitars. You know, we didn't use amps on this. This is all just the GB tracker, undertone on GB tracker, right into Pro Tools. Right into these amp plugins. So you can hear these. The guitars sound puny, even though they're not really. I think they sound actually good, but you can't sort of unhear when you turn the Cornef Audio on. Wonderful. Now, yes, it's louder, and louder things have a tendency to sound better, or appear to sound better, but generally really genuinely speaking, listening to those guitars, the mid-range becomes a little softer, easier to listen to. The guitars get wider, also because it has this on here as well, the mono to stereo fader that you can use, which in this case, obviously being on a stereo bus, making it wider, works wonderfully. So you can see here, I have all of these panned. Each set of guitars in the production has its own bus, which has an EQ on it, which is just cutting some low end, some muddy stuff, and using the AIP, my EG Preset 1, to make things bigger, more fun. And again, that's how the course really gets so big, is by filling in all these gaps for left, right, center. But also, if you go down here, you can see we have octave guitars that are panned 75% left and right. And then lead guitars, that's one's panned 30% left and one's panned 60% right. So together, you're getting when I say wall of sound, you're getting left, right, center, you're getting octaves that are panned 75%, then you're getting lead parts that are panned 30 and 60. So truly from left 100 to right 100, there's mid-range parts happening all across that stereo spectrum in the chorus, again, where the biggest part of the song is happening, again, where everything sort of explodes in the song into this big summer anthem rock chorus. Let's play it all together. You can hear how big it gets. So again, tip number 2, guitar production, right? Building a wall of sound, not just panning everything 100 left, 100 right, but really building the pans into the wall of sound, using bussing to your advantage so you can get the volumes of things submixed on the tracks, sent to the bus, blend those buses together where they should be sitting, and getting this full range of mid-range going from left to right inside of your chorus, being supported by, again, the first tip, which was the extended low end being in stereo as well. All these production tips make for a really big sounding chorus, or the biggest part of the song, whatever that may be for you. Probably your chorus. Next, third tip I'd like to go over would be the synths. Synth production inside of these choruses as well. As you can tell, I'm focusing a lot on this chorus because, again, I think it's the reason the song went #1 for as long as it did, and it's still charting today, is just how infectious this chorus and sing-along is. I'm including those whoa-ohs as part of the chorus. That's more of a tag, but these parts are really big, and the production that I was able to pull out of this song really stands on its own. So anywhere that there's center guitars and we have the wall of sound. So again, in this song, pretty much just not in the verses and during the big windmill sections when we're hitting the ones only. So the bridge part here and the intro. These synths aren't there, but anytime the center guitar is there, these synths are here as well. Now, these synths, I'm getting ready to solo, sound very silly. As a matter of fact, the band was almost kind of laughing when I was doing the production because it sounds like a completely different song. But I promise you, when you hear them in context, what I'm about to do after I show you the settings, you can hear how much they fill in this wall of sound, this big but clear picture that we get in the chorus, right? So I'm going to show you the sound, and you can laugh because it's quite funny on its own. These are two synths that I have doing the same chords as the chorus that's following the guitar part. So this is synth 1. Just saw a synth. It kind of sounds EDM-y almost, right? And this is synth 2, which is an octave up. And together they sound like this. Now, those sound silly. Now, what I want to do is add the acoustics in here with it, because those are helping the production of the mid-range by being super percussive. They happen throughout most of the song. You know, I go into this more on the very lengthy 2 or 3 hour version of, this is a very truncated version we're doing. There's a 2 or 3 hour version of this breakdown that I do through Produce Like a Pro as well, that you can find and subscribe to. But I go through in the longer version of this, explaining how the acoustics in the song really give it this 90s, like me and the band are big Third Eye Blind fans, as well as Blink-182 fans, and it's almost like the foreground is more Blink-182, alternative rock, punky, pop punk, and then the middle ground and the background have this sort of 90s, like Third Eye Blind with the chorusing percussive acoustics going on, and there's another synth element I'll show you in a moment that's part of the guitar production that adds to this like late summer SoCal skateboarding 90s vibe that's happening in the mid and background, on, you know, in the middle of this foreground of like super alternative rock stuff. So anyway, acoustics I'm going to put in here because the acoustics are a big part of the mid-range of the song as well. And I'm going to solo out all the guitars that we just went through, the leads, the octaves, the left, right, center. So this is all the guitars with the synths. Now, to be honest with you, I still think, even in this context, the synths can be heard too much. Because in the final production and mix, the synths are more felt than heard. They add so much depth and width to the guitars that they're really not heard. Right now, you can even hear them more than you definitely can in the production, but let me just play it. You can still discern them. I'm going to mute them out. Really big difference. Turn them on again. So what they're doing is they're just doing this really expansive, sort of what the low end that I just went through did in tip 1, which is this explosion of just sound and stereo frequency bands. These synths are doing something that the guitars aren't. They're wider than left and right. Like they have like stereo wideners on them. They're this really big thing that's happening to support the guitars, to make the guitars feel like they're larger than life. In the main production, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to play it with the synth, and then I'm going to play it without the synth, and you can really feel them when they're not there. You don't really hear them, but you feel them.
No matter what I do, I'll never
They're in right now. I'm going to mute them out right now.
be or insecure. Which
They're out
one
now.
would you
I'm going to turn them in again.
No matter what you say, I'm gonna live my way.
It just adds to the wall of sound and how big everything is. It feels larger than life because it truly is. Laying your guitars with these distorted synth tones that fit in and blend with your guitars. Now that is of importance. I'm gonna activate the actual presets I have saved on, or that I use on this song. Given yours are gonna be different, right? You're gonna use whatever feels good in your production. In my production, I found these two presets felt really good. So they're both Serum. This one is called Flicker 1, which is used, I found, again, most of my Serum packs I just got off of Reddit for free. This is called Oversampled by Portify, Flicker 1. And then that sounds like this again. The first one. The second one is this one, which is called Sea of Voices High. So it naturally adds the extra octave on top. So I didn't make the MIDI an octave up. It just, this synth actually adds the octave on top of it. And again, this is from the same pack, as a matter of fact, from the same pack, Oversampled Portify, Sea of Voices High. It's actually just a few after Flicker 1, because I probably did what I did with the bass, which is copy the Serum preset to, copy Serum to the other MIDI track, and just kept flipping while listening to the guitars, and got to those two presets that felt like they're making my guitars bigger without making them feel artificial, or that synths weren't necessarily making themselves heard, right? Just felt. Cannot stress this enough. I do this pretty much in every one of my productions, not with those synths, but with synths in general, where I'm layering my guitar sounds with synthesizers. Also, last but not least, this lead guitar part, which is going like this. There's two lead guitar parts, but this lead guitar part, I'm also layering with this lead synth. Right, play them together. And that mono synth that's playing right there, that's, again, adding that sort of just like that underbelly of 90s, like sugary pop that happens underneath this big alternative rock modern chorus, right? The acoustics and that synth, if you listen to those elements together, that's like the middle ground and background of this chorus. When you listen to it, you can really hear the acoustics and feel that synth jumping back and forth from left to right. The lead guitar that it's mirroring is panned 30% to the left. This synth is actually jumping back and forth, left and right with each note, right? It's going on an eighth note jump. The setting here is using the Arturia Creative Collection, which is one of my favorite synths packs. I mean, I use these keyboards all the time. They're wonderful. This one is the OPXA5, which is one of my favorites inside of the Arturia pack itself. I added the same echo and reverb as I did on the lead guitar that it's mirroring, so that the decays are the same. Again, the guitar stays consistent in 30% to the left. This is jumping back and forth, so it's adding some really great movement to that guitar that's not happening naturally. The guitarist, or the guitar part itself is staying cemented in more tilted to your left, but then there's this other synth that's sort of bouncing around. It's creating some movement in the composition, in the production. That's really important when you listen to it without it. Again, hear it somewhat, feel it, definitely, for sure. So the tip that I'm giving you, generally speaking, is layering your guitar parts Let me deactivate this again. Layering your guitar parts with synthesizers. Listen to the guitar part, make the MIDI, and then listen to the guitar part and flip through synth sounds that support the part. They don't necessarily make them sound artificial, but it makes it sound larger than life, right? So that the chorus, everything here is layered with another part that's creating a midground and background to the foreground itself. It's a really important tip, something that I use on a daily basis, quite literally, right? Tip number 4 is a pretty simple one, but you'd be surprised how much of a difference it makes. Tuning all of your risers, downers, and percussion. So this song has a tambourine and shaker in the verses, tambourine in the choruses, and then risers that come out of every big section. We have a riser that's also tuned. So let me play those for you real fast. I'm going to play the shakers first, the shakers and tambourines first. So these come in the second half of the verses, each verse, to create some motion, which is one of my favorite parts of the song, is when you hear this percussive motion enter. So we'll hear the drums. First half of the verse, finishing up, and then come in the second half. Right? It's great. Now we add the riff on top of that, the guitar riff in verse 1. Great, and now hear them again, right? Now, those percussion pieces are tuned. So you can see here, tambourine, the song key is E major. The key of the song is E major. So we have a tambourine in E major. And then we have the shaker that's in E major. So they really feel a part of the guitar part. In the second verse, we have clean guitars. You can really hear how they blend so well. Right? It's holding down the root note, even the percussion. These are small things. Do I think a tuned tambourine or shaker make the song a hit? Is that why it went number 1? No. It didn't hurt. I know that much. Everything just feels unified. It feels intentional. Everything feels collected. And I mean, tuning your percussion is not hard at all. It's actually quite easy. You know, you can, I mean, there's 18 different ways to do it nowadays. I do it in Arcade, the plugin Arcade, but you can do it in Melodyne, Autotune. You can do it in 1,000 different ways. ARA, any different ways. But it is really important. And the same thing with my riser. So at the end of each big section, we have this riser. Now, that's adding some really cool dynamics. Again, something that you feel but don't necessarily hear. So I'm going to play the end of that chorus where the riser comes in.
Get the message.
Now that you know it's there, I hope that you hear it. But prior to knowing that it was there by soloing it, you probably just felt it. Like the end of the chorus, just it starts to expand and then it cuts. And it's this really dynamic, fun thing that happens with this riser that's underneath the composition. And that's tuned to E major as well. So that in the song, it doesn't feel dissonance. It doesn't come in on a wrong note. It doesn't come in on a neighbor note. It comes in underneath it in the key at the root note and sucks out, right? These are all really important parts of the production that, again, I don't think necessarily made it number 1, but it surely didn't hurt it. And if anything, it makes it just everything feel more put together. And it is all very, very intentional, right? So tune your percussion, tune your risers, tune your falls, everything. It'll tighten your production up tenfold, I promise. The last production tip I want to give you, it's not even in the box, honestly. It's not even something I can show you on the screen. I wish it's something I could show in the screen, but it's not. And that is, one, the production of the song. It was my Les Paul guitar and my Ernie Ball Stingray, DI'd through the Undertone Audio GB tracker, right into Pro Tools, through amp sims, and a vocal chain. We did do drums at a studio. But we almost didn't. I'm glad we did because Percy, the drummer of the Paradoxes, has such great feel that I really wanted him on the song. But we almost didn't. But 90% of this song that I produced and co-wrote that went number one, you could get for $1,000, $2,000 maybe, you know? You can literally go out and buy the guitars, go out and buy STO tones with my plugin pack that I made that I use all these tones on. I use a 2 mic and a nice pre. Again, maybe call it a couple $1,000s. I didn't use $1 million worth of stuff. I don't have $1 million. I didn't use $1 million worth of stuff to make this hit song. I used good stuff. I used nice stuff. I was very intentional with what I used, for sure. And I was very detail-oriented, and I went through everything to make sure it was correct, but it was not $1 million worth of stuff. You can do this at you can do this at your home on your laptop. My home studio runs on my laptop right here. You know, it's not a big expensive tower. It's just my MacBook Pro. And it was all done in this room, which is my studio in my backyard. I just want that to be known. That's somewhat of a tip. The other tip that sort of coincides with this is, based on what I just said, the fact that me and the band and the writers of this song, so it was me, the Paradox. It was also my really good friend, Little Aaron, who wrote the second verse of the song. He came in later to write the second verse. My really good friend, Blaze Riley, who's an amazing writer, and my really good friend, Brandon Shoup, who's also a great writer. It was all of us collectively in this room writing the song, and then I was producing it and co-writing. And the thing that I can't show you on a screen, and that nobody can pull out of a session or anything, you have to just be present for, is the relationship and the communication that I have with the band themselves and the co-writers, who are all my really good friends, where we really get along. We communicate well. We express things to one another that we're concerned about or that we like or don't like. We are able to have an open line of communication to create and write a song together that can connect with a mass audience. Me and the Paradox have a wonderful relationship outside of the studio, inside the studio. Me and Aaron and Blaze and Shoup, the same thing. Even them, external of me, have great relationships. And the interpersonal connection that happens when you're writing a song is so important. You know, the production is very important. Absolutely, of course. The songwriting, very important. But it all starts with a connection with the artist and the writers that you're with in the room. And that, I do truly believe, was heard and conveyed through the production of the song. It's not something I can solo and show you. I think the other tips are really important. Getting your bass to feel large in life in your productions with the synth and the sub. The guitars and how they're panning from left to right and creating a true wall of sound, right, with compression and EQ, but not even only that, but just where you put guitars and the parts and what they're filling up in the frequency spectrum. Layering those guitars with the synths so that you get this larger-than-life expansiveness in the parts that are supposed to be big. Tuning your percussion and your risers, really important. Those are all great tips that you should absolutely do and take with you and try in your productions, and I promise they're going to make them better. But the fifth one is something that I can't show you. I can't solo in a Pro Tools session. I wish I could. And it's just the sheer relationship that you have with the artist, the writers, and the song in the room, and the creativity that comes from that communication and that trust. So if you take anything, I would take this with you: is one, you don't need $1 million worth of gear, and two, what you do need is a great song with a great relationship where you can get the performances out of the artists in the room and the writers that you're with. That's really the best production tip I can give anyone. If you enjoyed these 5 tips, it was kind of a speed run, just to kind of get you an overview of a few things that I did in this hit song that hopefully you can take with you to your productions. But there is a much longer course. It's 2 or 3 hours where I break down every single element in the song, the multi-track element, where you can hear it. I go through every detail about it. You can also download the multi-tracks themselves, remix it, play with the productions. You can do all that through Pro Mix Academy. Click the link below to promixacademy.com to check out my course on the song.